Hello, my name is Lizzi, aka CarnageCandyy, and welcome to Women in Horror with Horror Miser on TG.
Y'all ready for this? Hey, horror fans! Once again, it is me, the Horror Miser Money G. Hey, horror fans! Once again, it is me, the Horror Miser Money G. Welcome once again to another episode of Women in Horror. And once again, this time I have one of my favorite horror ghouls all the way from Vegas. She is Lizzi of CarnageCandyy. And obviously a huge fan of the Scream franchise, which I'm pretty sure we'll talk about. So say hello to all my subscribers, Lizzi.
Hello. Yes, I am Lizzi, aka CarnageCandyy. Normally, I'd have my Scream set up in the background, but not
Yeah,
today
add
because we
some
are having technical difficulties in the
difficulties.
beginning.
We all know about that, whether it's doing recordings or live streams. It always seems to be a problem. So, first of all, I want to thank you again for doing Women in Horror. And obviously, one of my first questions is going to be were you aware of the grassroots organization known as Women in Horror?
Uh yeah. A little bit usually mainly because I think is it February that's like Women in Horror Month. I
It,
know that they often do like things during that time. So
uh,
a little bit.
yeah, they started in February, but I think what happened was they didn't want to compete with Black History Month, so they changed it to March.
Okay, yeah. Well,
uh,
good.
and and it got so popular now that now it's not just a month, just a once a month thing. I mean, it's a once a month. It's now a yearly thing. So what I decided to do is, like, instead of just doing just for the month of March, I decided to make it a series on my channel where I interview awesome female horror YouTubers such as yourself.
Very nice.
Now, my next question is going to be, and this is one of the questions I always start off with, because, as a woman, as a lovely young woman such as yourself, this is known fact that women are not supposed to like horror because, girls, sugar and spices and everything nice. So, my first question to you is, how did you get into horror of all the genres of film?
So I always feel like I got really like super into horror late in life. I didn't really get like super into horror films until my 20s. But I look back at my childhood and I definitely did have like a spooky childhood. I mean, I was raised Nightmare Before Christmas was like a movie we watched every Christmas and Halloween. It's one of my dad's favorites. Me and him would watch the Universal monster movies together. And yeah, like looking back, I mean, we'd watch Rocky Horror for, movie night, things like that, Little Shop of Horrors. So it definitely the spooky realm was definitely a big part of my childhood. So I think it was just inevitable that I'd find my way towards horror.
Uh, yeah, I do find it fascinating because most of the ladies I've spoken to, it's always when they were young. One person said that the whole family was into horror back when she was growing up, and it was her aunt and her grandmother that got her into horror. Most of all people, it's always started up when because I was young when I started up into horror. Obviously, growing up, being generational, I'm one of the last of the baby boomers, so I grew up watching the Universal monsters when I was growing up watching horror.
Yeah.
It just gravitated toward me because I had a more of a sense of humor back when I was little, and horror films never scared me. I thought they were funny. So,
Nice.
so that's just with me. But yeah, I just find it fascinating that most of the people always started off when they were young.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for a lot of people, it is something that you get into very early on, like at a young age. And when you do, you're just like clicked in. For me, I definitely remember watching, some stuff when I was younger, but I didn't really get like super, super into it until I hit like my 20s, which I've kind of like told that story before. And if I can tell it again, but pretty much I like wanted to watch Scream 4 when it came out because the
Mhm.
cast was like filled with people. So I sat down, like went and just rented like the first 3 films. And because we still had like a little local place where you could like even just rent movies
Mm.
and stuff. And so yeah, I like rented the first 3, I think, and sat down and watched them, and something was just like ha ha ha, and I just like instantly screamed. Like what really got me to like fully fall in love with, um, and I didn't stop since. So
And here you are now.
yes,
Uh,
yes.
what are your thoughts regarding how women have been treated in horror films? I would say back from the damsel in distress days of the, I would say even from the 30s, 40s, and 50s up until what we now have in modern horror.
Yeah, things have changed. I mean, I like to think things are starting to change. I don't think we're by any means obviously living in a perfect world. Um, but I think that, over time there has been a mixture. I feel like a lot of older films get a lot of crap, and especially like for me because I like slashers more specifically. There's
Hmm.
always been kind of this negativity towards the way characters are portrayed, but I feel like you can have that anytime. I feel like there's still characters nowadays that aren't always so great, and I feel like obviously we have female characters are getting a lot stronger than, like you said, the damsel in distress situation. But I feel like in some of those kind of older, even just like the monster movies, the women, even if maybe people don't like the way that they use their feminine wilds or whatever have you,
Hmm.
to soothe the beast or whatever. They did what they had to do. And obviously, I think a lot of people, want to see, and I do as well, like these kind of strong female characters that have pushed away from that. But I think that there's still not anything necessarily wrong with that. And you
Hmm.
still gotta, give those women credit for, doing what they had to. But it's definitely come a long way, and especially in, like I said, like the slasher realm for sure.
Yeah, I think a prime example is that when you actually take a look at the original King Kong and Fay Ray, you
Mhm.
take that dynamic as opposed to Peter Jackson's version of King Kong, and I believe it was Naomi. I forgot her name that
Is
plays
it
the.
Naomi Campbell?
No, it's not Naomi Campbell. I
Oh,
think
I
it's.
don't know. That's the only Naomi.
eh, I know it's Naomi Campbell, but that particular version of King Kong, I think that was Naomi Watts.
Oh yeah, Naomi Watts.
Even though it's she's still a vaudeville, it was still basically the same time, but her portrayal of that particular character is way different as opposed to Fay Ray's character in the original Fay Ray's character in the original King Kong. But she is a much more stronger woman in that film when you take a look at the two different versions of Kong, and I think that's represents time, whereas Fay Ray's version, she's more of a damsel in distress. But in this one, she actually stands up to Kong.
Yeah, very true, very true. Yeah, yeah, agreed.
Uh,
And it'll just, I hope, progressively get better
mhm. Oh yes.
over time.
Uh, what next question is going to be? Obviously, there are differences between how women were used back in the horror films. They were just mostly damsel in distress, and then we eventually transitioned over to the final girls, and then
Mhm.
the badass final girls. So, what do you think the difference is between the damsel in distress until what we have now is not just a typical final girls like Laurie Strode and Nancy, but we have badass girls like Sydney and obviously Ripley from Aliens.
Yeah, just yeah, what you kind of said, like going from having these characters who are kind of a lot more like passive, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
or needing like sometimes needing like a man to come along, or what have you. But yeah, I think the women, like you said, like Sydney, they're kind of doing it their own way. They're a lot, tougher. They don't necessarily, I mean, Sydney's always, I feel like, a great representation of how far the final girl came even just from the 90s, because she is someone who, well, she does start out the movie being the more tame character, especially compared to Tatum. And she spends the majority of the film being a virgin until she decides to sleep with Billy. And they even joke that, oh well, now you have to die, and she is able to like break the mold of not having that. And what I knew we were going to sit down and talk, one of the people that kind of characters that first popped in my head, which I mean, the film's been out for a little while, but is Happy Death Day. I
Hmm.
mean, you have her who, um, what's
Tree.
her character? Yes,
Yeah, Tree.
thank you. I knew she had a weird name. I couldn't remember what it was, but she is very much a character that is kind of like, I think of her very similar to like Helen Shivers from I Know What You Did Last Summer, more
Hmm.
so than like Julie, where she, first off, she's blonde, and it's almost historically the blonde friend that
Hmm.
gets killed off. She is sexually free. She, she's kind of a bitch throughout the majority of the movie. Um, that's what people would label her. And she still, and even though she does obviously die throughout that film, she still is our final girl. She still finds a way to break through, and she is a character that I definitely think broke a mold in a sense as well, because even with like I love Sydney, but like I said, she spends the majority of the film kind of being that like innocent, not really like she doesn't even really want to go to the party at Tatum's, like that kind of stereotypical final girl vibe, until like the end of the film, where Treat throughout like the entirety of Happy Death Day is the character that you would normally expect to die right away in
Yeah,
like a slasher film.
yeah, I think that was a great character arc for Tree because she plays a typical blonde girl. She's sassy. Yeah, she's kind of a stuck up.
Yep.
Just like you said, she's a bee, and all throughout the time, she manages to actually realize that she's treated people wrong. She treated her
Mhm.
father wrong, and then no, that I
Yeah.
think that's what really made Happy Death Day such a fantastic slasher film was because of the growth of the character and the performance of the actors who played Tree.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she's definitely a character that develops growth throughout the film, or even the, two films that we have.
Mhm.
Um, but she doesn't have to, completely change every single thing about herself to survive, which I think
Yeah.
is, I mean, she has to change her attitude a bit, but still.
One of the things I find fascinating is I think it's called the evolution of the Final Girl because I think Final Girls have changed since the beginning. Even wave, I guess you say, from the original Black Christmas, from the original Halloween, even past of all the Scream films. Even now, I think there's been a huge evolution. So, what do you think is the evolution of the Final Girl, and do you think this is going to continue on? With slasher films, especially with Melissa Barrero now being one of the modern final girls.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, I'm very sad to see that she is no longer part of the Scream franchise, which is, I love Scream. Why I will not be seeing the seventh one. But even her character, we have evolution from Sydney to her, because again, she is a character that when we meet her in the fifth one, she has a boyfriend. She has a boyfriend who she's been sexually active with. She
Mm-hmm.
has a stored past. She was, a drug addict. She left her town at, 18, and kind of ran away from her life, very, very different from Sydney. And all of that before, I mean, she knows who her father is, but we know all of that before even learning that fact.
Mm-hmm.
And so right there, you have a character that has completely changed even the Scream dynamic of what a final girl is. And I definitely think it's something that will continue to develop. And you know, I like seeing that development. There's nothing wrong, not hating, the kind of innocent girls as well. And I do think it's interesting. Um, I don't, have you seen the new I Know What You Did Last Summer?
I did.
Okay. I figured as much, but with that, we have two characters who are best friends, but and they obviously mirror Julie and Helen's relationship in the original,
Mhm.
but the fact that they are able to make it out alive together, both being, again, we have our stereotypical blonde, kind of rich, bit stuck up uh, character in that film. And then our, kind of sweet brunette who she goes a little bit off the rails, which I also think is interesting. I guess, really thinking about it, they do kind of twist those characters because we have Dan, who is very much like a committed relationship type of character. And then Ava, she kind of, after the murder, goes a little off rails, and she's kind of hooking up with whoever. And so they kind of twist the whole blonde brunette character stereotype even in that film.
Uh,
Which I didn't really realize till now, really thinking about it, how
yeah,
much
because
they kind of
I actually
twisted
didn't
those
realize that.
characters.
Yeah, I didn't realize that until now when you just mentioned it. I said, you know what? I actually have to give Jennifer credit for creating that little dynamic twist because you would think that would be actually Danica's character because she's
Hmm.
blonde and Ava because she's a brunette, but she actually is the one that turns out to be a bit more loose and willing to hook up. I think because she just wants to forget about the only way to forget about the pain is just have people just hook up with someone and then tell them to do make have her do BDSM on her.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I didn't really think about it while watching the film, but it is something that they definitely twist and change to those characters because, yeah, again, like Danny would usually be like the quote unquote funny character, but she, in this film, we see her have two very
Mm,
committed relationships.
mm.
And yeah, that I didn't really think about that till now. So that is
Oh yeah.
really interesting that even in that development they um have changed the characters.
Yeah, I think when it comes to the Final Girls, I think we've seen a lot more changes than the typical Final Girls we've seen in the older slasher films, where they're kind of meek and they just barely survive. Where we actually see the Final Girls, like Sydney, like Melissa, and some of the other Final Girls actually are thinking. They don't make dumb decisions, and they actually beat the shit out of the bad guys.
Yep, exactly. Which of course I like that too.
Uh, You know, one of the things I find fascinating, or I guess a little bit troublesome, was during the 80s. And for some reason or another, we couldn't see a slasher film about a woman exposing her breasts, exposing her butt, or doing full frontal nudity. Do you feel as though women like that were being objectified because we just had all this gratuitous nudity in the early part of the slasher craze?
Oh yeah, definitely. I
Mm,
mean, that was like the big thing with slasher films, and it was like, you knew, in especially in the 80s, like if you were gonna go see a film, that was like you were expecting that. And it is something that I think has gotten a bit better. I will say, I little self plug, I recently did a video talking about some of my favorite, like, non-final girls or almost
hmm
final girls. And I talked about Paris Hilton's character in The House of Wax,
hmm
because I love Paris Hilton. But kind of getting clips for that video from the movie, there are scenes where they, I feel like, almost exploited what happened to Paris,
hmm
with, like, her sex tape, because they make jokes about it. And there's, some parts where one of the other cast members with other characters, like, using a camera, they zoom in, and then they obviously have her have a sex scene in the film. And it felt very, and obviously, like, there were choices that she made in that film, and she chose to be killed off because she knew people would love seeing that. And I'm sure that she didn't do anything that she didn't want to because it's Paris Hilton, but
Mm-hmm.
at least for that film. But it's just funny to, or not funny. It is kind of sad to think about. Um, I felt at least watching that they exploited what she went through in real life to put into her character in that film. And I definitely think it's something that, early 2000s uh, slashers still definitely had a bit of a problem with. And I think it is something that is definitely getting better. I think we see it less and less for sure.
Yeah, I think they've done a great job in limiting the type of nudity that we see in slasher films. I think now we see it unless it's acquired. Obviously, when you see the substance, that's required because we're seeing a woman trying to regain her beauty, so she does that. So I thought that was done tastefully, and you got to give Debbie more credit for being doing those scenes where she's practically almost all nude.
Yeah.
Uh,
And it is interesting thing about Demi Moore as a person just in general because like one of my other favorite things is like 80s films, just in general. And she is someone that was obviously like heavily sexualized,
mm,
and probably like a lot of what she did had scenes like that. So it is interesting to have her, this was kind of like a comeback film for her, and be able to take that, but have it be part of the art and not be just like exploiting her because she's Demi Moore.
yeah, yeah. Because one of the funniest scenes, not funniest scenes, but one of the scenes in the earlier Friday the 13th, I think it was the second one, where you had this woman dressed up, and I mean even before booty shorts, but just real low cut shorts, and the guy shoots her in the butt. With whatchamacallit, she's wearing these short shorts, where you can all see her ass crack. And it's like,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, come on, guys, is that the only thing you can do here? It's like, show some respect.
Right, exactly.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of like any excuse to exploit a woman in that way.
uh, I think one of the prime examples is one of my guilty pleasure films is Jennifer's Body. Now, obviously, the people behind that marketing decided that because Megan Fox is very hot, and
Mhm.
Amanda Seyfried is a very attractive woman, so we're going to have this great makeout scene, but we're going to market it to average teenage boys, so we can see two hot girls make out. But that was not the whole purpose of the film. What the whole purpose of the film was the friendship or the not so friendship that Nene and Jennifer had between each other. That was the whole purpose of the film, not seeing two hot girls make out.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is just like I'm a ride or die Megan Fox fan.
Mm-hmm.
I love her. I've been defending her since like day one. So that whole marketing scheme still to this day just makes me so mad because it's like she is somebody that has gone through so much in Hollywood, the
Mm-hmm.
abuse during filming of like or even her audition during Transformers.
Yeah, I
Where
heard
Michael
about that.
Bay made
Mm-hmm.
her like dress up in a bikini. She was underage in a music video that he shot. Like she has been used in that way throughout pretty much like her entire career. So to have this film that is so female fronted, female empowerment, it is about like friendship you know, and whatever is going on between the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a film that, in a sense, is about the cruelty that Jennifer endures at the hands of a group of men.
Mm-hmm.
And she kind of takes her power back. And for none of that to be in the advertisement, and it is a film that has luckily, like, I loved it when it came out because obviously Megan Fox again, but
Mm-hmm.
it's been lucky enough to get more of a cult following in the last like year or so. But it is a film that should have been advertised towards women and young women and not towards like, hey, teenage boys who like horror movies, look, we have Megan Fox. Like
Megan Fox.
it was
Mm-hmm.
all wrong and it was advertised towards the wrong group of people. And it just unfortunately fell flat because of that. So, but
Yeah,
I'm
no,
glad
yeah.
that it is starting to get the attention it
Oh
deserves.
yeah, because it's a decent film, and I have to give Megan Fox credit. Her and Amanda Siegfried, they have great chemistry together. I thought they did. It's one of Megan Fox's better performances. That, and I think I can't remember the other one that she did where she was handcuffed. I think it's
Uh, um, I know what it's
from
called.
yeah, I know it's from
It
something. I can't think of it. It'll come
um, hold on. It's gonna bother me that I don't know. Till Death.
until death. Yeah, I thought
That
that.
one's really good as well. I really enjoyed that
Yeah, so
movie
did I.
as well.
Right. Do you think that a man can actually do a rape revenge film, or can a woman do better when it comes to the rape revenge films?
I think it can depend. I think
Mm,
that it is, person based. I think that it is life experience based. I don't see any reason why, a man couldn't. But I think it really just depends on, and I think intent. I think intent behind
mm,
why you're doing it matters. I think if you are just inserting that as part of your storyline for shock or horror and not to tell a real story, I think that that matters greatly. I think that if your intent is to, you know, either tell your own story or tell, the story of someone or just people's experience, because, I do think it is unfortunate that majority of what we see in those films is women,
mm,
because it obviously happens to men, non-binary, whatever people as well. And it's obviously the majority of people that face sexual violence are women, and the majority of people that do the acts are men. But it does go both ways. I mean, I think what's that show? Baby Deer, something Deer, that's on Netflix. Do you know what I'm
um,
talking about?
you talk about adolescents.
It's a show that's on Netflix.
You said
Um,
baby deer.
I don't think that's the name of it. It's
Oh.
something Deer. That's gonna bother me. Uh, oh yeah, Baby Reindeer is
Oh,
the
okay, yeah, I
total
see. Yeah,
title
baby.
of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew it was something like that. It's a good
Hmm.
example of, showing the kind of other side of that. And I think again, it really is about like your intent behind using it. I've talked before, American Horror Story. I didn't
Hmm.
like the Asylum season because it felt like that was in every single episode. And
Hmm.
after a while, it's just really not fun to look at. And I personally avoid those movies. There's a lot of movies I haven't watched because I know that they have scenes like that in it.
Hmm.
So I'm not an expert on that realm of film because I do just kind of try to avoid it. Because it's unsettling and I don't like it. But
Uh,
I think again, it just always depends on the person and their life experience and their intent behind it.
so I take it you never saw the I Spit on Your Grave, either the '73 version or the I think it was a 2010 remake.
No, I've not seen I Spit on Your Grave. I have seen both versions of The Last House on the Left. I
Hmm.
saw the remake at a sleepover. I
Ooh.
was actually visiting a friend,
Hmm.
and her and her family were watching it, and I didn't know. And I don't think any of us knew, and I definitely got up and like walked out
Mm.
during that scene. But I did watch the original for my 101 Days Before that I did because it's on that
Yeah, I
list.
remember that. Yes.
Yeah, and that one, I will say it wasn't as bad as I was expecting. I guess sometimes it's like if you go into these films really expecting something to be completely
Hmm.
horrific, and then it's like, oh, okay, that wasn't as bad as I was
Yeah.
expecting. But
Yeah.
there's like a film called, I'm so bad at remembering film titles. It's like Reverse or something like that, where it's filmed.
Irreversible.
Yeah, Irreversible, where it's filmed like backwards, and
Yeah,
I know that they're
it's filmed backwards. Yeah, because
yeah.
it shows it is the end of the scene of the movie, and then we have to go through everything up until we see the beginning of the movie, and that's where the tragedy happens. You
Hmm.
know, kind of a
Yeah, and I
kind of a
know
weird way of
that
weird way of storytelling, though.
right, and it's a film that I feel like would be interesting to watch, and it does kind of sadden me that I'm like, it would be really cool, like, to see something filmed like that,
Mm,
but knowing that it has such a, like, long and extended and pretty graphic scene, is
hmm.
just something that I'm not willing to put myself through. I'm not
Yeah,
there's a lot of
I saw that once, and yeah, that scene is, ooh, and I thought the the scene in the remake of "I Spit on Your Grave" was brutal enough, but that scene is just as brutal, if a little, because it's very extended, and I don't know what he was trying to show here. I don't know if you're trying to make the other events seem more real when we get to that part of the movie, as far as how brutal that scene was. And I'm like, it's like, come on, man, it's like you really got to show all that.
sorry, one of my cats is scratching, but yeah, yeah, for sure, and that's exactly why I, like, haven't watched that one and
Hmm.
avoid, a lot of those films, is because, there's a lot of creators, like Emma, love her. She's willing to sit there and put herself through watching
Oh
certain
yeah,
films,
she loves her
and
disturbing movies.
exactly, and I mean, if she sits there, come on, kitty cat. If I'm watching one of her videos and she's like, "This film even got me," I'm like, "Nope," instantly on my don't watch list. I'm like, if Emma can't sit through it,
I
then
know,
I ain't
cause I
sure
said,
shit.
wow, I even said to her one time, "What, you couldn't watch a disturbing movie? That was too much." Like,
Right, exactly. So yeah, if it's a movie that even she's just like, nah, then I'm definitely not sitting through certain films. So
I know it's like, for me, I think uh, s- a suburban film and the first Human Centipede were two. Those are just one and done for me. I can't watch those anymore. It's like
yeah,
I see in a lot of weird shit in my time, but those two, oh no, yeah, it's
right,
one and done
yeah.
for me.
I've not seen the first one that you mentioned. Again, on one of those movies that's just on my I
Mhm.
will never watch that, refuse to watch list.
Okay. Do you think women directors of horror are now getting the respect that they deserve?
Um, I think it's getting better.
Hmm.
I think unfortunately in the film industry, I mean, you look at award season, I mean, we don't care too much about that in the horror realm, but even, still the lack of women represented in certain categories. I mean, the fact that we'll still have years where there will be no female directors chosen for a
Hmm.
category is beyond ridiculous. I think that it's definitely getting better. I think we talked about the new I Know What You Did Last Summer, and
Hmm.
instantly so much of the critique I saw, I mean, one of the first comments I got was like, this is why women shouldn't, write horror. And I'm like,
Oh
okay, you
boy.
can not enjoy the film,
I mean, yeah,
um,
you can not
but
enjoy
it's
the
like,
film, but
come on.
not come on, because look. I mean, Jennifer Caton Robinson, she's actually had some success, and like Unpregnant, what's it, Unpregnancy and Do Revenge. Those were two
Yeah.
decent films. So don't knock her just because she's a woman. Like, if you didn't like the film, just say you didn't like the film because it was poorly written, but not knock her because, oh, this is the reason why you don't have women directors. I mean, come on, guys.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, and I really liked Do Revenge. It's obviously like not a horror film, but I mean,
Hmm.
she and I'm looking at her IMDb, she did Someone Great, which is a fantastic film about female friendship that's on Netflix. She did do Thor Love and Thunder, which I'm
Hmm.
not
Yeah.
a fan
I will.
of. Like, okay, girl, like,
I
but
blame it more
yeah.
on Waikiki, as mainly her, with about how that film was a mess.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, I think that obviously people are going to find an excuse to just like blame a woman for it
Mm.
no matter what. So, yeah, yeah, that was one of the, like, the first comments. So I do think that it's getting a little bit better. I do think that unfortunately it's not perfect. I think that you know, I feel like I think it was Gory B said, because I did watch some of your little or some of
Hmm.
your ones that you did. She talked about how a lot of times like male like counterparts, like whether it's a writer, director, or actor, will often get like the credit for how well a
Hmm.
film does. And then when it does poorly, they want to blame the women.
You
So
know,
I
prime
think
yeah, a prime example of that is that when you take a look at Mary Lambert, who did a fantastic job on the original Pet Cemetery movie, but you never see her in any of the credits. All you see is Stephen King.
in a little loading circle. There we go. Yeah, no, for sure. I definitely agree. I think that yeah, often you have um like you said, like a female writer or director on
Mm,
something, and instead of giving that person the credit, you then have them, giving all the credit to. I mean, I think is it Us, uh, that was or no, Nope. That film, when that
hmm.
came out, everyone was like Jordan Peele, but it was like okay, he produced it, yes, and it could technically be considered a Jordan Peele film, but he did not write or direct that film. But
Mm.
again, he got all the fucking credit for it, even though he was just a producer on it, and that was like his extent on that film. He got, everyone still considers it a Jordan Peele film, because like I said, technically you could, but he didn't write or direct that one. So,
Mm.
and you never hear anybody talk about who did. So, yeah,
That
I think
talk about Kiki Palmer's performance because she did a great
that's
job in that.
true. She did
Uh-huh.
do a great job, and she
Mm.
definitely deserves credit for that. And I think that's coming a long way as well. I think that uh, actresses are getting a bit more credit, um, or even femme presenting actors are getting a bit more credit, which is obviously great. But we still got some progress
Mm.
to make. We probably, unfortunately, always will.
I know. Now, I think you mentioned this before, but for the purpose of this, for women in horror, what led you to decide to become on going to YouTube and talk about horror?
I'm not gonna lie, I started out, trying to do different things on YouTube. I did some like makeup stuff and I wasn't very good at it, so I don't know why. I was like I've gotten better, but at the time
Hmm.
I was not like makeup artist YouTuber. I was just trying different things. I was always like a fan of YouTube and it was something that I wanted to kind of like break into. And then I think the first horror related video that I did was the horror tag. And
Hmm.
I just found that so fun. And then I found just like a community of people and talking about it. And just found that so many people, especially fellow women on YouTube, and in the horror space, were so welcoming. And that was also just like, it was really impressive to see the fact that there were so many like women on this platform talking
Hmm.
about horror already. And I just instantly felt like a connection and just had like so much fun talking about horror films. And also because I had gotten into horror kind of later in life,
Hmm.
um, it kind of gave me an outlet to continue to dive deeper. I mean, there were so many horror films that I hadn't seen yet, and it gave me a chance and a space to watch and review those and talk about them, and
Hmm.
kind of have an excuse to sit down and watch them, especially ones that I hadn't seen yet. So,
I know, yeah, because kind of that's kind of how I got into YouTube because uh, when I first saw that there was a horror community on YouTube, probably starting with Jay and Jay and his channel Bloodbath Beyond. That's when I eventually
oh yeah,
first saw Emma and her Spooky Astronaut channel, and then eventually I got with the Horror Addicts with Dan and Corey. Then I found that there was a whole bunch of people that love horror just as much as I did because, being in the baby boom era, there was no social media. There was no internet back then when I was growing up. So unfortunately, a lot of people just called me weird. Money, how you like all that weird shit? You just like all that crazy shit. How you're weird. So I couldn't talk to anybody that loved horror like I did. So it's finally got a chance and opportunity to meet people who love horror like I do. So that's one of the great things I love about this space, and also seeing the type of woman such as yourself that enjoy horror as much as I do.
Yes, definitely agree. I mean, like the first person that I remember really welcoming me in was actually Casey from Homicidal Homemaker, who does
Hmm.
like
Oh
the cool
yes.
horror stuff.
Hmm.
And then definitely Gory B when she was, still like doing, I mean, I guess she does still do horror addict stuff, but has
Hmm.
like her own channel now. But she and Danny really welcomed me in. They both still heavily support me a lot, love them. And then from there I just, got in contact with Vicky from Nightmare Maven. And then Emma came along, and I remember that was kind of like for me, the moment she followed me, I was like,
I know. Yeah.
and then obviously she just became a friend, and I got to meet her when she came out here a couple years ago.
Yeah. I saw.
But
Yeah. I saw the
yeah,
pictures. Yeah.
yeah, and she was just, but that was like a big moment for me because I was like, I kind of fangirled a little bit when she followed me, but 'cause, she's a big deal in the community, and so that was just like
I know.
really
Yeah.
cool.
Because
But
it was right before the YouTube apocalypse started.
oh yeah,
She actually helped me build my channel somewhat because I said, well, I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. She said, well, you're a big supporter of mine, so it's like, you know what, I'll help you out. So I really did appreciate her. Yeah, she did. Always good to always converse back and forth with both Vicky and Vicky, Gory, and Emma.
yeah, very very
Obviously, this
wonderful
is probably.
people.
Yeah, obviously, this is probably going to be a very easy answer. Who is your favorite final girl and why?
Sydney, I can't help it. I love her. Obviously, because I love Scream. And I think that again, she did something in the '90s that really like broke the mold on Final Girl.
Mm,
Of not being. She was still a bit of the innocentness, and they kind of had to keep that a little bit, but she definitely wasn't 100%. And she had a lot going on in her life. Her mom's death, and then finding out about her mom's reputation,
mm,
and all of those things. And so she wasn't a perfect victim. And she continues to kick ass throughout the franchise.
mm.
Um, so yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting how they're going to put this Scream Seven. Now, like I said, just like you said before, it's a shame that neither Jenna Ortega or Melissa Barrera are going to be in this particular film. But I
Hmm.
find it's still going to be interesting to see how they're going to play this Scream Seven with Matthew Dillard coming back uh,
Yeah.
as Stu. One of my friends, Stephen from
Oh yeah.
Craven Something Scary. He's a huge Stu Mocker fan. And he's
Yeah.
gone on the Stu train, so I'm pretty sure. And I told him before, Stu is not alive. It's probably going to be a dream sequence or a past sequence that he's going to be involved. But it's going to be interesting to see how this Screen Seven is going to play out.
Right. Yeah,
Mm.
I've always been on the like Stu's dead train as well. I just feel like there's no way. So I agree it's probably going to be something like that. But like I said, unfortunately, um and I don't know how much you like to get political on your channel, but it is something where, I unfortunately I want to support,
Mm.
Melissa Barrera. I think that
Mm.
what she did in standing up for people was very brave, and obviously it cost her something. And I mean, she's gone on to do a bunch of films since, and I will continue to support her. I mean, I didn't see Heart Eyes because it's done by the same people, and
Mm.
so I just unfortunately I think that bringing back Nev Campbell, and I understand to an extent her coming back. I think again, I thought that it was really brave for her to stand up for herself,
Mhm.
and refuse to come back for the sixth film because they refused to pay her what she deserved, and hopefully they're paying her well.
Oh yeah,
I do think
they
it's
had to for it to come
right.
back. Not
Yeah,
that they
I
had.
do think there is part of me that's a bit disappointed in her and kind of a
Mhm.
lot of the other people that have chosen to come back, because I think that I don't know, I just think that sometimes your morals have to be a little bit higher,
Mhm.
and so, unfortunately, I think bringing her back, I think bringing, Matthew Lillard back, I think
Mhm.
Courtney Cox, I believe, is also signed
Yeah, she's
on.
back. She's back.
They're bringing back a lot of people, and I think that that was done out of desperation,
Mhm. I
because
think so
they
too.
fucked up.
Mhm.
And so, unfortunately for me, it's not a film that I'm gonna be promoting, and I'm not gonna see it. And if it gets spoiled for me and people tell me what happens in it, I'm sure I'll see people online talk about it, when it does come
Mhm.
out. And it'll be kind of interesting to see what they do, I guess, but
Mhm.
I will not be seeing it personally. So that's just kind of where I stand on Scream 7. It's
Okay.
disappointing. I obviously love this franchise very much.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
I'm a bit disappointed, but
I know. Yeah, because as a matter of fact, I believe the name of your channel comes from was it Scream or Scream Two?
it is from the second one. It is the scene where
Mm.
Dewey and wow, I can't believe I'm blanking. Hold on.
It was Dewey, and wasn't that Jamie Kennedy's character?
It was, yeah, so it's the scene where Dewey and Randy,
Yeah,
there we go,
Randy.
are sitting in like a coffee shop talking about who could be the next like killer and what the rules are for a sequel. And Randy says like more blood, more carnage candy, and so that's where
Mm.
my name is from. But yeah, it
Yeah.
is, which I know it is like a common horror term, but I
Hmm.
did specifically get it from the second Scream film.
Because I remember when you first told that story, I'm like, well, that's actually pretty good. I like that.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. For the last question I have for you is if you could create a horror film, what kind of a horror film would it be and what type of subgenre would it be?
Whew, it would probably be a slasher.
Hmm.
As far as creating one, I don't know. I don't know if I would. I guess it would probably be very much in the vein of like I love the mystery group uh
Hmm.
slasher films, obviously Scream. I know what you did last summer, revolving around friendship. I think honestly a really underrated slasher film is called Demons Never Die. It has Robert Sheehan, who a lot of people he's an Irish actor. A lot of people know him. He plays Klaus in the Umbrella Academy. He was
Hmm.
also in a show called Misfits, which is how I found him. But it is a very kind of similar vein. It is about a group of college kids who are slowly killed off, and they have to, figure out who's doing it. And that's just kind of my jam. That's my like favorite type of slasher film. I really like films that have that uh, development of friendship around them.
Hmm.
And so that would probably be what mine would be. It'd be some sort of murder mystery style where, you have a group of friends who are being taken out and you gotta, find out who done it.
Yeah. I never heard of that. What's it called again? Demons what?
Demons never die.
Oh, Demons Never Die. I had to check that out. That's one I never heard of before. And that's
Yeah,
funny. Yeah.
it's a really good one.
Yeah, I have to check that out to see where is it playing at. Demons Never Die.
I think you might be able to find it like on YouTube if you're being sneaky enough, but I don't it looks like you can rent it on Apple TV for like $1.99.
Okay, all right. I have to check
But
that out.
I really like that one. That's a good fun like teen slasher or I guess adult slasher film. But
Okay. Well, Lizzie, I want to thank you very much for coming on board. Thank you for participating. You've been such a
Of
great host and a great
course.
channel. And of course, everyone that is watching right now, if you've not subscribed to Lizzie, please, I will leave a link of her channel in the description box below. And I want to thank you again for participating in Women in Horror. And obviously,
Of
if you have
course.
an outro, just go ahead and say it.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you so much for watching. Like you said, you can check me out. It's Carnage Candy with 2 eyes. It is that on everything. And thank you so much, and I will see you all later.
And once again, my name is Lamont Smith, better known as the Horror Miser Money G. And always remember that horror rules. And I'll see you in the next video, guys. And please stay safe out there.